Hey listeners, Nat here. Welcome back to Cheers with Nat, the podcast dedicated to cheering on women in drinks. Today's guest is Becky Paskin, drinks journalist and founder of the OurWhisky Foundation. We had so much to talk about, this episode will be coming at you in two parts. In this first half, Becky tells us how she got her start as a drinks writer, what it takes to make a living as one today, what an editor actually does, and why she believes they don't get nearly enough credit. We also dig into her distilling qualifications, why she pursued them, and how they've informed her work. Lastly, we explore why she's such a passionate advocate for diversity within the drinks industry, along with the work she's doing to drive real change. It's time for a cheers and a chat with Becky Paskin. Here she is.
Now I know you enjoy beer, but how much do you enjoy whiskey?
I enjoyed learning about it,
Uh-huh.
and I'm excited to be with you as my guide, but I will say I don't normally drink spirits neat.
Because you know whiskey's my thing.
Of course.
And at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a redecoration of my living room,
Okay.
which I'm trying to chronicle on my Instagram because I hate my living room and I have too many bottles. So I've been through the process of removing all the bottles from my shelves. There's over 200 open bottles that I now
Wow.
got sat on the floor of my living room
Okay.
that have all covered dust. Some of them are relatively new, and some of them have been open for at least 10 years and they're just sat there. The idea is once I've redecorated my living room, I will have a bottle kill party to get through some of these bottles. But
Okay.
I thought if I was going to bring a drink for you to try, it has to be one of the special bottles that I've got on my shelf that
Exciting.
I had completely forgotten about that I had. This is a sample bottle, a rather large sample bottle, I think it's a litre, from Laddie Distillery.
Oh, wow.
You probably can't read the name on that signature just there.
No.
So it is a sample
For you.
bottle label with a business card that's taped over the top. And the business card says, "Enjoy, best regards, Jim McEwen." So if you're listening to this and you're a whiskey fan, you'll know exactly who Jim McEwen is. He was the former master distiller of Laddie for many years. He's got a long history of working in the whiskey industry. And I can't remember when he gave this to me. It must have been around 2015 because that's the date drawn on this bottle. And he sent it to me in this sample bottle and said, "This is a very special whiskey." And I can't remember why he gave this to me, of all people, but he said, I've drawn a whiskey out of my favourite cask, the one cask that I absolutely adore, and I've nicknamed it the Princess Diana cask.
Okay.
And I can't remember why it's Princess Diana's cask, but this is a single Chateau Latour cask, previously held wine from Chateau Latour, that's matured Laddie whiskey since 1992. So I think that makes it around
24 years? Is that right?
4
This
years.
year?
Yeah, something like that. They actually bottled this. They called it A Final Act of Creation. It's a 23-year-old, actually, 1992, bottled at 52% to represent Jim McEwen's 52 years in the industry. Interestingly, this particular sample says it's 50.8%. So I don't know what happened, but would you like to try it?
Let's give it a go. Yeah. What an incredible story.
This has been in an open bottle for a while, so the oxygen may have gotten to it. The ABV's probably gone down a bit, but Slangeva.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm thinking back to my WSCT level 3 in spirits training. Like I'm getting my porridge, cereal, barley, honey.
It's very fruity. There's a lot of jam in
Yeah.
that porridge. It's like raspberry and blackcurrant jam.
Yeah. Oh, I love jam on a porridge.
Very creamy oaty.
Can I
Not-
say marmalade? Is there a little bit of orange?
Yep, definitely there. There's a real lovely kind of caramel sticky toffee note.
Yeah.
I'm not really getting any peat though,
Yeah.
so this might be an unpeated version.
And a little bit of spice, like that kind of cinnamony character.
Oh my god, that is so good.
Wow. Even for someone who, because I'm so used to beer at 5% ABV, I'm not used to drinking spirits that are this strong. But even I'm able to sip that and enjoy that and really have a moment and think, it's not too strong. The alcohol's not overwhelming all the character. You're getting it on the palate. Wow, that's really beautiful.
There's really lovely tingly cask spice. It's making my mouth water, something chronic. I can barely speak. Really tingly cask spice. I'd probably want to add a bit of water to this, I think, just to let it open up a bit more. But it's been sat in this sample bottle for, well, 2015. That's 11 years. It's been sat on my shelf
Wow.
in my living room gathering dust, and we are the first people to have opened and tasted this whiskey in that amount of time.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So a fun rediscovery for you as well.
On the way down here, I did check how much bottles of this are
selling for.
available for. You can only buy it on auction because there are only 220 bottles, and it goes for between £1,000 and £1,500.
Wow. Oh my gosh, special treat.
Maybe more now. Anyway,
Thank you.
there you go.
That's
Cheers.
amazing.
Sorry.
So clearly you know your whiskey. 200 bottles at home, beautiful story, and so much more to share there. What is your current role in the drinks world, and what does your day-to-day look like?
This is a really good question because the quick answer is I don't really know how to explain my job.
And you're probably a person who doesn't have a day-to-day, right? Every day is going to
No.
look a little bit different.
I really don't. No day is the same. So the best way to describe it is I have three hats on. So one is I'm a drinks writer and presenter. So I'm trained as a journalist and I've been writing about drinks for about 20 years or so. Since 2019, I've been freelance, so writing for various publications, presenting on TV, presenting podcasts, presenting on radio, and yeah, just writing about drinks, mostly spirits and mostly whiskey. Then I also run a non-profit called the OurWhisky Foundation, which I started in 2022. So the day-to-day running of that is also my wheelhouse. I try to separate my week out into certain days. It never works out that way. I feel like I'm fighting fires all over the place.
Leads into the other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get distracted very easily too. So I feel like I'm jumping on all sorts of things. And then the third is I've started a new project called Drink This, which is essentially a Substack and Instagram education platform about drinks. But I also host tasting events in Brighton, which is where I live, where we are now, and in London too. So it's creating a world of drinks experience for people who want to learn what's good to drink. I think there's so much noise out there around whether we should be drinking this or drinking that or how to drink it and whether it's right or wrong. And when you're spending so much money on alcohol or non-alcoholic drinks, you want to make sure that it's going to be a delicious experience every single time. And I want to just alleviate that itch for people and just make sure that they feel comfortable and secure in the knowledge that whatever they spend the money on, it's in good taste and they're gonna love it.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. It's what they're looking for.
Yes.
And giving them that knowledge. So there's none of that fear around it or the misinformation around it. And you're really trying to be that one-stop shop for the knowledge around what to enjoy and how to enjoy
I think in the short answer is I'm a drinks expert, but I don't like that word expert because I don't think you could ever be an expert in anything. And some of the biggest master blenders and master whiskey makers and winemakers in the world will tell you that even they're not experts because they haven't got to the end of their knowledge. So yeah.
I remember I was listening to another podcast with you on it, and I heard you say that, and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting that you don't like that word expert. Yeah, because I did use it whenever I gained a certain qualification in beer, because the Cicerone program said, an expert level of beer knowledge. So I was like, cool, once I get this qualification, I can say it. But I even still feel a bit of discomfort around it because there is so much more to learn.
Yeah.
But it's more about being that communicator, educator, and informing people in a way that lands with them, whatever the different audiences are that you're speaking to.
Like we specialize in our certain areas. Like you could specialize in beer, you can specialize in whiskey. But when you say to someone, "Oh, I'm a drink specialist," what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Because I know as a consumer, you would probably be like, "Oh, a drinks expert. Oh, okay." That means you know your stuff around one particular topic.
Yeah.
And for the average consumer, that's enough for them to know. And actually, they don't need to have as in-depth knowledge as you probably even have.
Yeah.
So expert could be just a catch-all.
Yeah. Works for, again, who you're talking to.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to come back to your three hats. We'll dig into each and kind of how you got there and what you do. But I want to go all the way back to when you were little.
Okay.
What did little Becky want to be whenever you were growing up? And do you see any parallels between that vision as a kid to what you do now?
Well, the first thing I really wanted to be was a princess.
Nice. We just had a Princess Diana cask.
We
so
did.
there's a
my
link
gosh,
there.
there you go. Right. Okay. Tick. And then I wanted to run a sweet shop so that I could eat all the sweets.
Amazing. I used to have a play sweet shop as a kid that I absolutely loved.
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Which I kind of feel like now I just have all these bottles of whiskey in my living room. So essentially, it's not sweets, it's whiskey. And I get to drink them all. So I guess also tick.
Yep.
Do you know what? I never really had a place that I wanted to go. I suppose as I grew up, I always loved acting. I did a lot of acting when I was younger. I was
Wow.
always on the stage. I was always in plays and shows and all sorts of things. I couldn't sing and I couldn't dance, and I still can't.
So not musicals.
Not
but
musicals,
other
although they would always
performance
put
arts.
me in musicals and force me to sing, which was embarrassing for everybody involved. So I don't know why they did that. But as time went on, I was given more opportunities to present in front of camera. So some really great people let me do that as part of my role within whichever job I was in, and I got the opportunity to flex that creative muscle a bit. And it's not quite acting, but you do sort of put on a bit of a persona when you present. You're yourself, but you're also the biggest, liveliest, bubbliest, most interested version of yourself. So in a way, I do that through presenting. So I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. My GCSE teacher told me that I was rubbish and I'd never make it. And so I was kind of determined to prove him wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, who's been on TV now?
Yeah.
So my LinkedIn stock that I do of all my guests tells me you studied film, TV, and radio studies. So I take it, was that from your interest in acting to head in that direction?
Yeah, I thought if I couldn't be in front of the camera, I'll be behind it.
Okay.
And the vision at that point was to make productions, films, TV shows. Throughout the course of that degree, I actually developed more of a love for the writing side rather than the production.
Okay.
The reality was the teacher who taught production was a pompous, arrogant arsehole, and I couldn't bear the thought of being in a room with him for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I decided to focus on writing instead of holding a camera. Which has suited me fine because I really enjoyed that aspect of analysing films, and I fell in love with things like cinematography and the aesthetics of cinema and script writing. And our final, instead of a dissertation, I wrote a film script. So it was a screenplay,
Wow.
which was very bizarre. It was very David Lynch, very weird. But I think from that point, it made me more open to writing as a career. And actually, it was trying to get a job writing about film as a film critic that led me to train to be a journalist, which then led me to getting my first job writing about hospitality.
Wow.
And then the dominoes started to fall, and fell in love with drinks, whiskey, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and just kept writing and writing and writing. I was thinking, teachers are so important. And so having that experience of a teacher that you thought, oof, I can't be working with you and learn from you must have felt quite hard at the time. But then to think about this whole new world it opened up instead by kind of pushing you to go into a different direction and to start the writing. Unexpected, but what a kind of pleasant discovery to then realize you have this talent, you have this skill, and that's really what's fueled your career since then.
I think we can always look back at what could have been, but so long as you're always following your heart and your interests and what makes you happy, I don't think you're ever going to regret your decisions. And for me, at that point, the decision to focus more on writing than production made me happy. And I haven't regretted that because I can still do the production side of things. And we're lucky that we now live in a world of iPhones and CapCut and editing facilities. And, anyone can make a podcast or make a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And so we have that ability to do it. I didn't need to go to university for 3 years to learn how to hold a camera. We've got them in our pockets.
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows how to use it now. So actually, in hindsight, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Great. Right decision.
And yeah, I'd say better than fine. So you started writing and then ended up working your way up to editor roles. So you worked at Big Hospitality, the Spirits Business, ScotchWhiskey.com. When you get to an editor role, are you doing as much writing or are you doing more of the strategy for those publications?
Every editor still wants to write, and I think that's
Yeah, I can
probably
imagine.
the pain point of when you become an editor, there is less time to be able to write.
Yeah.
You want to take on the bigger meteor stories, the big interviews, the celebrity interviews, and I think as editor, you have that. I suppose the buck stops with you. Like you can decide what you want to do,
Okay.
so you can take on those really great projects.
Okay.
But Yeah, it can be really hard to continue writing when, as an editor, your main role is to think about the overarching content that publication puts out
Yep.
and assign different people the opportunities to write those articles.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of editing involved. I don't think editors get enough credit for the work that they have to do on people's
To help
writing.
improve people's work.
As someone who's been an editor for many years, I can tell you that even some of the biggest names in writing are not brilliant writers. They've got great
They have
editors
great editors behind
who
them.
can help shape that content, help shape the copy. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad at their job, but sometimes having an outside perspective can really help, I suppose, understand the bigger picture of what you're trying to say, or decide a new hook which is going to be more attention grabbing. And I think an editor has a bit more perspective on what's going to work and what's not going to work, or to ask those, or I'm reading this but I'm left wondering this one particular question which you haven't answered, and can you go back and ask that question, or can you find a way to answer that in here somewhere, or we need a bigger ending somehow, or it needs to be a much stronger opener, and why haven't you spoken to this person, because I want an alternative perspective. So there's a lot that an editor does, feeds that back to the writer, and then they'll review it themselves. So I think writing, a lot of people think that's a really glamorous thing and that's like the best thing you could possibly be doing is writing, but I genuinely think editing is a much greater skill, because it's also helping a writer develop their skill as well. But there are no awards for editors. There are no awards.
It's
There's a lot of
the
communicator
writer that
awards.
gets the buzz.
The
and the
writer,
name.
the writer gets the byline, the content creator gets the byline, but editors don't get that. But I think it does take a lot of talent,
Yeah.
and patience, and a really great character to be a good editor. I've worked with a lot of bad editors in my time, and yeah, it does take a brilliant person to be able to edit
Yeah, and giving feedback
beautifully.
in a strategic
Yes.
way, in a way that's going to bring the best out of your writer as opposed to get their backup. Yeah, I never really thought about this. I'm glad you're putting a spotlight on this important role.
Mm.
So you were an editor for many years, and then in 2019 you went freelance.
Mhm.
What brought that about? What made you decide to go freelance? And I guess, did you miss being an editor? Must have been interesting to go from working with a team to then doing your own thing.
Well, so I had ScotchWhisky.com started in 2015. At that time, I was editor of Spirits Business. Actually, I edited both publications for 3 months. They overlapped, so I took on the job of both
Holy
for a
moly.
period, while we were waiting for the new editor of Spirits Business to step into that role.
Wow.
So
Gosh, that's intense.
ScotchWhisky.com, I went over to be editor of that from 2015 to 2019. 2019, they took the decision to close it down,
Oh, okay.
and which is really sad. I'm really glad they've left that website up and running, because it really is a fantastic resource of information about whiskey as a whole. And I can tell you, as somebody, we're talking about being a good editor, I fact check the life out of that website. So you can be assured that the dates, the facts, the figures, everything on there was correct at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We are now almost 7 years on from when it closed,
Yeah.
so it's going to have been changed a little bit. But that website was just a brilliant resource of information, and I really, really enjoyed working on it. Unfortunately, publishing is really difficult, so
Yeah.
the decision was taken to close it. I left there in November 2019. A few months later,
The world
the
changed?
world
Yeah.
changed. So I did already want to embrace the world of being freelance anyway, and I was lucky that when ScotchWhisky.com closed, I was able to pick up a lot of opportunities straight off the bat. So I wrote about whiskey for other publications,
Okay.
and I did some freelance consultancy for lots of brands. A lot of people think that they want to be drinks writers and they want to be a freelance drinks writer because they see that it's going to be big and glamorous and lovely.
Yeah.
And the reality is it's very badly paid.
Yeah.
It's so badly paid, and the rates haven't changed in the 20 years that I've been a writer. There's a lot more of us now also vying for those commissions, and fewer publications as well.
Yeah.
So we're literally scrabbling around in the dirt for scraps, while brands are constantly asking, can you write about this? Can you write about this? Can you write about this? But we can't find an outlet for it.
Yeah.
And that's why you're now seeing so many people launching Substacks,
Yep.
because they want an outlet themselves to be able to speak creatively use their own voice
Yeah.
and write. And it's a really difficult world, freelance writing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone goes into it, but if you did want to be a writer, then I would make sure you have another source of income as well. So the majority of us that have been doing it as our profession for a long time also consult on the side for brands. We might write for like in-house copy for brands. We might work on new product development for brands, or help work on positioning, or sense check a new product launch, whatever that looks like, because we have such a wide knowledge of the industry in general, and a lot of the times these companies are in their own little silos, and they don't really know outside. They're relying on external voices to be able to feed into their projects and just check they're on the right lines. So that's what a lot of us do to make ends meet. Content creation as well, but not everybody likes that. So
Yeah, right. And taking it back to the beginning, that's why you mentioned you wear so many hats. Could be out of interest. You lots of things that grab your attention, but also partly out of need. You can't just make it as a writer, as a journalist.
yeah.
You mentioned your fact checking, and that made me think kind of in two different realms. Not only do you have your journalism qualifications, but you also have qualifications in whiskey, which I know is very important to you. And I think you say you're the only journalist to hold a distilling qualification. You have your general certificate in distilling from the Chartered Institute of Brewing and Distilling, and then also your WSET Level 3 award in spirits. Tell me about both of those pieces, your journalism qualifications and your whiskey qualifications or distilling qualifications, and why they're important to you in doing what you do.
I'd been editor of the spirits business for several years. I knew whiskey, I knew spirits, I knew how it was made. When I started at scotchwhiskey.com as editor, I very quickly realised that there was a lot of prejudice against women writing about whiskey. And even some of the men in my team, it was presumed that they were my boss and that I was their PA,
Wow.
simply because of my gender and my age.
Yeah.
So I felt I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
I had to prove myself to the outside world that I knew what I was talking about. And I had been looking around at what qualifications existed. At that time, I think the WSET was only the spirits was tied to
Wine
wine.
and spirits were
And I
together,
didn't
yep.
really know anything about wine. So to get to the level of spirits that I needed, the WSET didn't go anywhere near what I needed to know.
You would have been distracting yourself with
Exactly.
other information you didn't need.
I think the maybe level 3 or 4 of wine was the equivalent of a level 1 or 2 of spirits at that time. So there was a real disparity, and so it wasn't something that I was interested in.
Right fit then, yeah.
And that's when I came across the GCD, the General Certificate in Distilling. There is I'm going to forget the name of it now, but there's a beginner. The GCD is the middle, and then there's the diploma, which is a much, much bigger
Which master distillers
beast.
hold.
Yeah, that's a real beast.
Yeah.
But the GCD is a qualification that most distillery operators will have. So I decided to do that. Most people that do the GCD are distillery operators.
Or in production.
They are in production.
Yeah.
So I was in that room, in a classroom with distillers,
Wow.
many of whom I'm still friends with today, which is really
Amazing.
lovely.
Yeah.
But and they all were learning about something that they already knew about because they're doing it day to day on their job. And they had people within their businesses they could go and speak to about it and ask questions.
You did
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I was coming from a place of I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough that at that point in my career, this was around 2016, I had made some great connections with people. And I remember speaking with Alan Winchester quite a lot, who was master distiller at Glenlivet at the time.
Okay.
He would help me out with some questions I had. I was very confused about mash tuns at that time, and the difference between a full and a semi-lauter. And there was
a bit in the beer world as well.
Oh my goodness, and then there was a lot of cleaning in place. There's a lot of cleaning.
Yes.
Most of a GCD is about cleaning
Yep.
and about chemicals. It's not fun stuff.
No.
It's what chemical do you use to clean stainless steel?
Yep.
What do you use to clean wood?
And what do you not use that can cause a tank to implode? And I have my general certificate in brewing from CIBD as well.
Okay, all right,
And
on the same page.
And it is so technical.
Yeah, it's so technical.
It's so different than tasting focused training where you're thinking about ingredients and process and how that affects what's in the glass. None of that. No tasting.
And I will say
every detail of production inside and out.
Exactly. It was no tasting at all.
Nope.
And I think at the time that I did that as well, you had to choose between whether you focused on grain, grape or molasses as the
Okay.
base material. It didn't really make much difference, but that was the basis. So obviously I chose grain.
Yep.
I think now you do all three as part of the GCD. I remember at the time I was just about to do the exam, or I'd just finished the exam, and I remember Dr. Nick Morgan, who at the time worked for Diageo, was head of advocacy. He said to me, once you've done your GCD, you need to forget everything, because the average person out there, when you're writing for them, they don't want to know about all of these things, about the type of cleaning material to clean a wooden washback.
Yeah.
It's not important to them. They don't need to know the boiling point. They don't need to know
What enzymes are active in a
enzymes.
mash
Yeah,
tub.
they don't need to know any, and they don't care. And you're going to just distance them if you talk to
Mhm.
them about it. So learn it, have it under your belt, but forget about it. So
Wow.
I tried my best over the years to try and think simply, just break it down and create almost like frameworks and systems within the way that I speak about whiskey to simplify it for audiences as much as possible while still making everything true. Like whiskey's just distilled beer, for instance.
Yeah.
Which for some people is enough for them to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting. But so I got the GCD, and at the time I was the only journalist to have taken it. And I don't know of any other journalists that have taken it,
Wow.
because I'm guessing no one felt like they had to prove themselves in the way that I did.
Right. And is that a gender piece? I felt the same. I felt I needed qualifications to be in certain rooms or certain conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't want other people to have to feel that way, but it gave me the confidence to then be in those rooms. So I don't think others should have to go for it. But if it gives you, if it gave me what I needed, it has helped change my career.
Yeah. It was more knowledge than I needed,
Yeah.
but I have it now.
Yeah.
In fact, now I would say, having done the WSET level 3 in spirits, I now recommend people just do that
Mm-hmm.
rather than the GCD,
Mm-hmm.
because it goes into mostly the same kind of depth in certain areas. There's no cleaning.
Yeah. Except for the cleaning
You'll be
piece.
pleased to hear there's no cleaning.
Yeah. Less chemicals to memorize.
And I found it actually more fascinating to delve into how variety of different spirits are created. So learning how tequila is made and learning how vodka is made, even though you do go through an element of column distillation in the GCD. It's really interesting and fascinating to learn about the different base materials and how you tailor your approach to each one of those in the creation of flavour. So that's what I loved about the WSET. What I wasn't sure about with the WSET is the systematic approach to tasting. I disagree with that, and I that's it.
In the sense that you now no longer use it.
I've never used it.
Yeah, because you think people need to hear something else when thinking about whiskey, or you don't think there should be so much structure in a tasting. It's more what you're finding in the glass. What's your sort
Exactly.
of personal philosophy on
I
that?
feel like no two people have the same palate, and it's all based on experience, and that's why diversity in drinks is so important, because people bring different experiences of different flavors to the table. And when you have a systematic approach to tasting, you are trying to find the common ground amongst absolutely everybody. And when everybody's palate is completely different, and in an exam setting, you're being told to think how person across from you is tasting it. So how am I supposed to know what they're tasting? I'm tasting this and that's my experience of it, but their experience is
What
going to be
should
something
I
different.
be
What
finding?
should, should
In
in
quotes.
quotation marks.
Yeah.
And I said that's, I get what it's trying to do, but I fundamentally just, I think we should be celebrating individuality a lot more than we actually do within the drinks industry, and embracing the fact that people have such fantastic palates. I've had this conversation a lot with a man called Deval Gandhi. He was whiskey maker at Macallan, well, he was at Macallan and then the Lakes. Now he's freelance. He has a consultancy firm called Condo Blanc. He's absolutely amazing. He has a background, his family came from India, so he has an Indian background. And I remember speaking to him about how he has real memories of his mother and grandmother mixing up spices in the kitchen, and all the smells and flavors and the blending of them all coming together. And he said he's taken that approach into how he blends whiskey, and those flavors from his childhood come through with the whiskey that he creates. And if you've ever tasted one of the whiskies from the Lakes when it was under his tenure, you know that he's got a fantastic palate. And no one who's just raised in the UK without an Indian heritage like that is going to make whiskey like he can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where diversity is so important, and we need to be cherishing that, and we need to be supporting that within the UK. But it's running, we'll get to it, I'm sure, but in the OurWhisky Foundation, we get...
Yeah, I was going to go there next. So let's do that.
Okay, all right,
Tell me all about
okay.
it, 'cause
So
clearly this is something you're so passionate about, not to the point of just saying, oh, we need different voices, different
it's not
perspectives.
for the sake of it.
You're making the effort to make this possible. So yeah, talk to me more about the foundation.
I'm trying. It's really hard.
Oh my gosh, no, you are accomplishing.
I
You're
think
not just trying.
somebody said to me recently, they're like, "Oh, you must have such a big team at the OurWhisky Foundation because you do a lot."
You're
And
here, there, and everywhere.
it's
Yeah.
like it's me and Millie,
Yeah.
part-time,
Yeah.
and we pay ourselves barely anything.
Yeah.
And we just, when we have an idea, we act on it and we get it done. And that's how we're able to do stuff.
Make things happen.
We're both... Millie Milliken is also a writer. She's a freelance drinks journalist like myself, also award-winning. She's fantastic. And the two of us are very creative, and we just get shit done. And we've worked together. She's been with me since the beginning of OurWhisky, and we work really well together. When we get an idea for something, we'll run with it. And the whole point of OurWhisky is, it was created to begin with to support women working in the whiskey industry.
Mhm.
As somebody who's come from being editor of ScotchWhisky.com, having to prove myself with my GCD,
Yeah.
the language that was used to refer to me being the only woman in the room on press trips, the sexual harassment that I've experienced and that I've speaking to other women that they've experienced, the general misogyny within the industry just made me think, oh God, enough's enough. I just want to do something to help.
Mhm.
So when I was made redundant from ScotchWhisky.com, OurWhisky was around already as a concept, and started it in 2018. Didn't really have the opportunity to do anything with it, but when I was made redundant, I thought, okay, now's the time.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to do something. Took me 2 years to get everything pulled together. 8th of March 2022, International Women's Day.
Yep.
This is before it became like a big thing. It was I launched OurWhisky Foundation, and the idea was that it would be... I can't really remember what I wanted it to be to begin with. I think I knew I wanted to do a mentorship program, but just ultimately had lots of different ideas for how to support women, just hosting panel discussions and talking about it, and showcasing the fact that, to begin with, women make whiskey, women drink whiskey.
Yeah.
At that time, women weren't seen in advertising and marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
This is 2022, right?
Right. Not long ago.
Not long ago.
But how did you change that? Because you did some really incredible work.
Oh, there's a lot of just being loud, to be honest. But I think sometimes you have to be if you want change, and one loud voice can inspire another loud voice, and then it has a snowball effect, and then you have a lot of loud voices all saying the same thing, and that's when change happens. So it's not one person, it's a lot of people that come together who believe in the same thing and are all fighting for the same cause.
Yeah. And it's not just the shouting about it, it's what you're saying. Because you guys did some amazing research into what are the disparities, looking at images in the world of whiskey to see who's in them and who's not, and speaking to women about their experiences of sexual harassment and other incidents within the industry. So there are reports, there's data, there's facts. It's sometimes frustrating that just raising our voices about our experiences isn't enough, but you then put this research together to say, listen to us, but if you need backup, here's the work that we've done. You created a whole image library to diversify the face of whiskey. And this is all before the mentorship program even came out. So you've been doing all of this work alongside helping individual women in the industry with their careers as well.
Yeah. Well, the mentorship program came first, actually, but it was nowhere near what it is today. It was, we let people apply for it, and then we matched them with mentors and let them get on with it. And in hindsight, it was very bare bones of something. It was like a seed of an idea. And I always feel bad for the first 50 women that went through our program, because they didn't quite have the same experience as the women who were doing it now. Now we have a whole ecosystem. It's called the Atonia program because it's so much more than just mentorship. And we offer, it's a networking piece, so they get to meet other women within the industry, because we often just take it for granted that people know each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time they come to us saying, I just feel so alone and so cut off. And particularly if they're working in a remote distillery. A lot of these distilleries in Scotland are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The same in England as well. You'll have like one distillery in one region, and there's no other whiskey distillery for maybe 100 miles.
Yeah.
So how are they supposed to get to know anybody? You've got the Cotswolds distillery down in the Cotswolds, and where's the nearest one to there?
Yeah.
Maybe there's, circumstance in Bristol, perhaps something in Cardiff. You're on your own, you're a silo. So we provide a networking piece so that they feel connected. To a certain extent, it's also very difficult with bridging geographical limitations. We assign them a mentor to work towards their own personal goals. And we also provide workshops which deal with personal skills. So we're not just talking about a program that develops professional skills. Personal ones have to come along with that as well. And the biggest one we see is this lack of confidence in women. When they apply for our program, the confidence is low. They feel like they're very lost, maybe at their wits' end. They just need help, they need support. And the first thing we get them to do is a workshop with the amazing Lucy Cox. She's founder of the Academy, and she puts them through something they call the Power Room, which is this transformative workshop where you discover your own personal saboteur and work towards analysing that and finding ways to deal with the character
inner
that you
critic.
Yeah, exactly, your inner
Okay.
critic. It takes a lot of vulnerability, and we need people to show up and be authentic and open. And then you really form bonds in that power room. Really do. It's
Because
like
breaking down all these walls.
a lot of these women are now lifelong friends. Like they go to events together and they'll share an Airbnb as like a group of women, and they didn't know each other before
Yeah.
they did the program. So it's really great to see the way they come on. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of all of them. Somebody said to me, we're doing the interviews at the moment for this next round, and got a really interesting question. Somebody said, "Can you give me an idea of a success story from the Atonia program?" I can't give you just one. There's so many of them. There's 250 women have gone through our program now,
That's incredible.
and they're all doing just amazing things. And I'm proud of each and every one of them, because not only have they been on their own personal journey and maybe got a promotion or gotten into a new job or achieved the confidence in work that they need to be able to use their voice and make changes within their own workplace, but they forge connections. They've really created this community of women working in whiskey, and not just within their own local area, but globally as well. And it just feels like the world's a smaller place when you have that sense of community.
Yeah. Okay, so instead of focusing on other people's stories, how has it affected you? What's something you've taken away? Not only the pride in seeing what is happening to the community you're creating, the individual impact, what have you learned from the experience since you've created the mentorship program?
That's a good question. I'm the sort of person, maybe you could call it childhood trauma, maybe you could call it ADHD, I don't know. I'm the sort of person that once I've achieved something, I don't feel any sense of accomplishment. Something's done, I'm like, cool, great, next.
Move on. You don't look
Move on. Yeah.
Okay.
So we had our graduations for our last cohort in January. And I remember after the ceremony, the next day, I went for a beer with a friend, and he said, "Oh, you must be feeling so proud of yourself for pulling all of that together." And I was like, "Not really, just thinking about how we can make it better and more inclusive for people next year. Like, what can I improve on? How can I make this bigger and better and welcome more people into it? How can I make sure people enjoy it more?" It's always thinking about how other people's experiences of what you provide, because I want to make sure that they get the most out of it. I think I always say ultimately I want the OurWhisky Foundation to become irrelevant. I don't want it to need to exist at some point. I don't think we're anywhere near that yet, but ultimately I want it to not be needed by anybody.
To do itself out of business.
Exactly. And I wish that something like this existed when I was getting into whiskey. And I think, maybe this will come on to one of your other questions, a certain thing happened in 2020, and the amount of messages that I received from women off the back of this one incident made me say to myself, maybe this is a promise and driving thing, really. Never again. I will never let a single woman experience the sort of things that I've just experienced. And I will never let the next generation of women coming into this industry experience the sort of things that these women are telling me they have. And what systems, what can we put in place now to make sure that that never occurs?
Yeah. Yeah, and let's talk about that in our next episode. Quite the cliffhanger, huh? There is plenty more of my conversation with Becky to follow. I'll see you right back here on Wednesday for part 2. Thanks, as always, for listening. Cheers.